Hello everyone and welcome back to The Cabinet. Today is the final episode of Season 1 and I just want to thank you all for listening, to everybody who listened every week. I appreciate it so much. I honestly didn't expect anybody to listen to it, so just having a couple people, I'll take it. Today's episode is going to be a little different. If you didn't listen to last episode, then you wouldn't know that this one is just me, by myself, my thoughts. Yay. I will say, I am minorly nervous for this one, but I thought that it would be nice to just kind of listen to one person speaking. Since I have so many guests on here, normally I prioritize the guests speaking, unless I notice that maybe they're not speaking as much, so then I'll try to take over here and there. But for the most part, I prioritize them speaking, so I thought that the final episode should be me, and I'm thinking every season I should have the final episode be just me, which is spooky. But I think that maybe me speaking can help some people and honestly just relate if you ever feel like you need to relate to somebody. There's been a lot of things that I'm sure I can relate to with quite a few people, and sometimes it's just nice to hear that somebody else has gone through it as well. So to make this episode as authentic as possible, not planned, just me speaking, I have these accounts that I follow on TikTok where they ask you like late night questions and they're deep questions. And I decided I'm going to randomly scroll through them and just answer them so that it is completely authentic, raw. There is no planning towards anything at all. I'm just going to speak. So on that note, I guess we'll kick it off with the first question. And again, all of this is completely random, so I don't know what to expect either. The first question is, what's something you love now that you could never have imagined liking in the past? That's honestly an interesting question because I think there's two different routes I can take for this. I can go with the general answer of like video games. I never really liked video games, but here I am streaming them and playing them almost every single day. But on a deeper level, I think, this is going to sound really strange, but I never imagined being somebody who was, I don't want to use the word cutesy, but I'm going to say cutesy in a relationship. Like, lovey-dovey. Never would be that person. I've never been that person before, like, in any of my relationships. I always thought that was a personality trait that I had, but after my last relationship, I think I do have that in me. It's just with the right person. When you look at somebody and you're like, oh my god, like, you are my person. You just feel so different, like you want to be that person. And I didn't even know I had that in me. So that's kind of something that I never imagined myself liking so much. I was always like, don't touch me in public. Not because I didn't want to be seen with them, but because it just made me uncomfortable. I was scared of people like looking at me. But now it's like, from my last relationship, it was just like, oh, I want that. Like, I want to always be holding you. That sounds so cheesy, but you know what I mean if you've ever been in like love. Like, that last relationship was like, oh, I was in like love. Not that I wasn't before, I just think it was a different kind of love. I do think it changes a lot. I thought my relationship before that I was in love. And I was, technically, just not to my full potential, I guess, and not in the way that I've always hoped for. My last relationship was the love that I always hoped for, that I would feel. I didn't even know I had it in me, but I did hope that it would exist, that I would feel that way about somebody. If the world were ending, who would you call first to say I love you? Wow. That's hard. That is really hard, honestly, because there's, I've talked about this before, but the phrase I love you is something that is a big struggle for me. I just never felt comfortable saying it. I've never felt comfortable talking about it. Somebody says I love you, and it's not that I don't love you or care about you. It's just when you say it to me, something in me feels weird, and not in like a happy, positive way. I'm just like, ooh, what do you mean? Like, love, scary. I think it's because it was something that, yeah, it was said to me when I was a kid, because I'm a little kid, and my mom would say it. But as my family life got a bit worse, it was something that wasn't shown as much. It was something that wasn't said that much. And then when it stopped for a while, and all of a sudden it came back, it was, I love you, saying it every single day from my mom, who would constantly just leave us at times. So me and my brother both kind of, it's not that we didn't believe it, but it just didn't feel the way she said it out of nowhere and constantly, and it's as you're leaving us, it just didn't feel like love. So I think, and also having my parents not like each other, you're not shown that kind of love. Like, that's the love I was shown. So when I hear somebody say that, I'm like, oh, love, what do you mean? It's just something that feels weird for me. It is a hard phrase to come out of my mouth. It's definitely not easy. It's very uncomfortable. So I think that if I were still in my last relationship, it would be the person I'm in a relationship with, but I'm currently, I guess, not. So honestly, I'd probably call my little cousin. He's 3, and I think that, I don't know, something about, like, when my little cousins were born, I just felt a different kind of attachment to them. Obviously, I would love to say it to my mom and my aunts and my uncles and all of them, but I just think something about, like, those kids being born, I would have to say, I would grab them first and say it to them, or call them. Okay, this one's a little bit of a nicer question. When was the last time you laughed so hard to the point where you couldn't stop laughing? Honestly, it happens a lot of times on stream because here's what I think. I think when you are so depressed of a person, or you're so hurt of a person that you're so used to these feelings and so used to walking around feeling numb and sad all the time, I think that when you hear and feel an enjoyment, you laugh harder than anybody else is going to laugh. And I've noticed that a lot with myself, that, like, I seem so happy sometimes on stream because of how much I'm laughing. And it's because all day long I walk around and I feel terrible until I have some people who can bring that out of me. So I think that it comes off as me laughing so hard about something because I can finally feel, like, that happiness for a bit. Like, I don't know how to explain it, and I hope somebody understands what I'm saying, but I definitely think that when I stream, specifically with, like, Mackenzie, she makes me laugh all the time. Or situations, like, she does something random, and I'll say something back, and it'll just make me crack up. And it's not even, like, the funniest thing in the world, but I'll laugh like it is, because it's just, that's the enjoyment that I get in my recent days. Most of my days are really sad. Most of my days are numb. So when I get the chance to feel like that, I definitely feel it more. Ooh, this is, that's a question. How do you want to be loved? Whew. Okay. Honestly, when I'm in a relationship, I've gone through a lot of things. I've dealt with people I should not have. I've dealt with things for so long that I shouldn't have because I thought that I could, not that I thought that I could help somebody, but I tend to look past people's flaws a lot. And yes, it can definitely be in, like, a negative way, like where you shouldn't look past it, but I think my whole thing is that people make mistakes. It's okay. I think it's okay to make mistakes, and even if it seems like it's a terrible thing, as long as it's not actually, like, a horrible, terrible thing, even if it might look like that, I just always think there's more to a story. I do believe that there are some people who are just not great people, some people that don't know how to treat somebody, but sometimes I think if there's a mistake that's made, and it's out of nowhere, and it's out of character, there's a reason. That's one thing I keep trying to tell people about my last relationship. I've talked about it on this podcast before because I'm okay with talking about it now. Some days are harder than others depending on what I'm talking about, but I'm okay with talking about the positive of it because I don't want to sit here and I'm not going to bash somebody. I could because of how hurt I am, but I'm not going to. But what I am going to be able to talk about is the fact that the point I've been trying to make to everybody is, yes, he has ghosted me. My own boyfriend didn't give me closure, did it out of nowhere, and ghosted me. Yeah, sounds horrible. Well, it was. It is. I'm still dealing with it a month and a half later, and I still feel horrendous about it. But here's the thing. With past relationships I've had before, there's red flags all throughout the relationship. I mean, every other day, every week, in the beginning, at the end, there were so many red flags. Not flaws. Here's the thing that people get confused. There are a difference between flaws and red flags. Yes, some flaws can come off as red flags. But sometimes it's just flaws people have, because people are flawed no matter what you say, no matter what you think. If you think you're a 10 out of 10, you are flawed. There is something about you that is flawed, and it's not a terrible thing. I'm not saying you're a terrible person and everybody has something wrong with them. It's just everybody grew up differently. Everybody handled situations differently. Everybody went through different things differently. So everybody is going to have some sort of flaw. And here's the thing. You have to know when to look past them. Are they actually flaws where it's going to be a red flag? A lot of the times, honestly, in relationships I've been in, they are red flags. But I really try to work with the person and understand the person, which sometimes, like I said, it's not something you should always do, and you shouldn't do it for a certain amount of time. But what I've been trying to tell people about my last relationship is this boy that I was with. It felt so different. And I know people say it all the time, like, oh my god, I had the same thing. I thought he was the one. I thought the last one I was with before him was the one. I was with him for 3.5 years. But deep down I knew he wasn't. This one, even though it was 4 months, I know it sounds crazy. I know. But it was 10 plus hours every single day talking on the phone. Like, it was different. And it's, honestly, as much as I can explain to people, it's not gonna sound how I feel, because no one's gonna know actually how I feel because you weren't in it. But I think he came with flaws. Of course he did. He wasn't a fully healed person. He came with flaws. He had things that maybe I wish he didn't do or say, but they were small things. Like, it was just, to me, that's a flaw. He wasn't waving red flags above his head up until I got ghosted. And that sounds crazy, right? It's absolutely insane. This guy had no red flags. And let me tell you, if I explained to you everything that he said and everything I felt, you would understand when I say it actually felt genuine, and to this point where I still think it is. Does that make sense? Probably not to you. I'm sure it's not going to. But here's the thing. This is the point that I'm trying to get across. Is that hurt people can easily hurt people they care about. Easily. And I feel like a lot of you can relate. You totally have to have said something, done something rash that may have hurt somebody you care about, or a decision you made that you thought was best at the time that clearly wasn't, could have hurt people. Everybody does it. And I know this is such an extreme. I mean, I got ghosted by my boyfriend. That's pretty bad. That is pretty bad. But I just think there's an understanding that has to come with some things, is that sometimes it's not as simple as that. It's not. It's still a bad thing. He still did something terrible. He still could have easily avoided it. But I just think I understand sometimes when maybe you feel like you're going crazy. You feel so out of control and you don't know what to do, and you make some decision, and then maybe you make the decision and you don't know how to get back now. There's so many factors that can come with it, and I just think there's a lot of understanding that has to come with people. Don't let it get to a certain point, though, of course. But I totally, disregarded the question. I forget what the point was. I was just explaining that because that is something I've been trying to tell people for so long now. And everyone's like, no, just a bad person, just a bad person. Like, it's not that simple. It's not. But to answer the actual question of how do you want to be loved, I personally, I just want someone to stay. It would be nice. And it doesn't even mean, maybe we weren't fit for each other, okay, and you had to leave. Then I need some form of communication. That's another thing, is communication. I need to be communicated with. I just want to be loved in a way that I know I can put myself in your hands. And not in a way where I'm not independent. I just mean, I want to be able to go, okay, I can do this. Like, I can let myself open. I can let myself be free. I can let insecurities be free. I can, all of these things. That's what I mean by putting myself into your hands. I want to be my own person, but I want to be able to have that security, like that you have me protected in your hands. That's all I want to feel. I have a big thing with people leaving, because for me, everybody leaves. I have gone through so many friend groups, and all of them are still friends to this day except for me. And that makes you feel a certain type of way. Because, like, what did I do? What did I do? But that's a whole different story. And then relationships. My first boyfriend would keep leaving over and over again, and turns out he kept doing it so he could be with other girls, but he's a whole different story. He's done a lot of things. Him, I don't mind bashing, because honestly, some people deserve it. Some people are just bad people sometimes. For me, he was just, maybe he's not now, but for me, he was just a bad person. And that's a whole different story I can get into. But yeah, he left me over and over again and would keep coming back to me. And I was just so attached. It was my first relationship, so I kept letting him back in. And I didn't know all these other things too. And then my next boyfriend, after that, I tell him all these things. And he tried to leave like 3-4 times in 3.5 years. And it was always me, not begging for him back, but trying to find a way to like make him stay, make him communicate instead of just leaving, because he would just leave instead of communicating. But just having people do that over and over and over to you is heartbreaking. I mean, I can't even explain it to you how badly that hurts. So why my last relationship, the one that just ended, why that one hurt so much is because when I tell you, I don't want to say I don't get along with people quick, but I don't. It takes me so long to get my personality out there, to get myself out there to them. It takes a really long time. With this person, I've never felt this with a friend, a guy, anybody, that I can just do it first day. Put myself in their hands. I wanted to throw myself into his hands on the first day that I ever spoke to him. And we weren't even trying to speak in any sort of way. It was just friends. Like, he just came to check up on me because he was in a friend group that I was in. And I don't know, something about him, I felt protected immediately. But I told myself, I'm not letting it happen. I won't do it. So I didn't. I knew in my head what I wanted. I knew what I wanted to happen. I knew what I wanted to feel. He let his feelings out way more than me, but I was really, really guarded. He did everything to make me not guarded and make me comfortable with things I wasn't comfortable. I mean, just things I've never seen a guy do before. And I'm telling you guys, after that like whole week that I was with this person, it was like I was slowly dropping myself into his hands. Like, I was like, oh my God, I had hope, not in just the relationship, but in my life, that like things can be happy. I can be happy. I deserve this love back that I am getting. And then it was out of nowhere, things got really hard with distance, and then poof, he was gone. And all of that little hope, that new feeling that I felt, all these new things that I felt just disappeared out of my hand, and the hope that I had was gone with it. And he was almost like this light that I had in my life. Like, I haven't had it in years. Nobody ever made me feel anywhere close to that. I haven't felt that since I became depressed. And so I've really never felt it before. So to have that taken from me when I was like, man, I'm right there. Yeah, it crushed me. It crushed me pretty bad. So everything, how I want to be loved is everything I had in that relationship before it went to shit, basically. Just all of those things, just that feeling and that security and all of that. What's something your parents warned you about that ended up true? It was really my mom. I never really had those deep talks or connections or anything with my dad. I'm not very close to him. One thing my mom would like always tell me is like just about people, that I don't want to say that just people do bad things, because obviously I knew that. But she had obviously a terrible experience with my dad. And she would tell me that like, don't be with somebody like this. Like, you know how he is. Don't do it. And I remember her warning me about my first relationship, like, this is like him. This is literally, you're like me and he is like your dad. And I was like, no, like that was such an insult. I'm like, no, because it's my first relationship. So I'm just denying everything. And then it turned out very, very true. He worked in ways that were the same as my dad. He was like this temper tantrum crybaby, narcissistic. all of these things, just so many different things and qualities that I've never seen in a person unless it was those two, which is really weird, and I don't like it. And I know people always say, oh, like, you go for somebody that's like your parents because that's the relationship and the love that you see. But I just denied it so much, so that was something that came true. And just her talking about how people are. Like, you can't trust people. And I know it's terrible because you want to trust people, but it's true. No matter how long you've known somebody, that means nothing. And that is heartbreaking, honestly. To know that you could know somebody for 30 years and it mean nothing because they will backstab you. That is crazy to me. Because I can't imagine doing that to people who are my acquaintances, let alone people that are like my best friends for 30 plus years. Like, that is just crazy to think about to me, but it's true. It's true. My mom says, like, I've gone through a lot of stuff that she did when she was younger, except she goes through it now when she's in her, she started going through it when she was in her 40s and 50s. Or no, I think it was earlier. I think she was saying she's gone through it in, like, her 30s and 40s. It was really, she was always just like, oh my god, I can't believe you're going through it now. I'm like, yeah, here I am with all my friends that, like, care so much. But it sounds terrible to say that, like, that's something I've learned from her that ended up being true, but it did. It really did. And that sucks a lot, honestly. Yikes, this is a heavy question. Not heavy, but what do you think your past self would think of you now? For me, that's a heavy question because I think I talked about this on the episode with Pengu. I was very much that kid that would stick up for you. I was that one that wouldn't let things get to me. You can look at me in the face and tell me that I was ugly, and I'd come back with something worse back at you, so I would be okay. Not that I wasn't a bully, I just mean, like, somebody would say something to me, and I would just deflect it instead. You know what I mean? I wouldn't let it get to me, because I'm like, you know what? No, you say that to me, well, you're this. So it wouldn't affect me. I wouldn't let it affect me. I would just deflect it instead, deflect it back at you. And then that would make people shut up. Having a quality like that, not saying I always insulted people, it would be more like, oh, you think this about me? Well, listen to how you're talking, like that type of thing. I wouldn't call somebody ugly back. I didn't do anything like that. But I think just that quality I had in myself where I could not let things get to me. That quality, I think the past me would be like, why? Why are you letting yourself let everything get to you now? I mean, now everything gets to me. Especially now. I am to a point where I am so crushed, so hurt, so broke of a person that everything people say to me is just, like, painful. No matter how little, no matter how big, I get triggered by things now, which I never got triggered by. Like, people calling me mean is something that really gets me really bad. Because when I was younger, I was a lot meaner. I was more mean. I don't know. People would tell me, like, oh, you were terrible when you were younger. You were terrible. And honestly, I'd like to say to them, well, have my dad, and then you'll understand. But obviously, I'm like, yeah, I know. And people are like, wow, I didn't expect you to be the way you are now. You're so nice and you're so kind. I'm like, do you understand? At like 10 years old, I looked at myself and I didn't like that I was mean. I noticed it. I was forced to grow up. Yeah, I had a childhood. Yeah, my childhood was alright because of my cousins and my aunts and uncles. But it doesn't mean it was good. But I chose to tell myself how to mature and what to do at a younger age. I had to understand a lot of things too because of my parents. And I told myself at a certain age, it might have been like 11 actually, I slowly tried to almost correct myself. By the time I was about 14 or so, 13 or 14, I definitely corrected myself a lot more. And people were like, whoa, you were so mean when you were younger. Like, what happened? And I'm like, oh God, do you know? Do you know what I had to put myself through to get here? So when somebody calls me mean now, I'm like, you don't know. You don't know. And I'm sorry, like, sometimes it's like, I'm sorry that it came off mean. And it almost triggers, like, it makes me so upset when somebody says it, because I'm like, shit, I was mean. Like, no, don't come back to that. Don't let that come back. It's like I'm afraid of what I worked so hard to fix coming back. And now I'm at a point here where I am so beyond broken, so beyond this upset that I am just angry. I mean, I have such anger in me now because I want to yell at everybody. I can't stand it anymore. I can't stand hearing so many comments when I walk down the steps. It's tiring. It is draining. And I literally today, I've had to have this conversation with my mom where I was like, look, I am not okay. I haven't been okay this entire year. I have been breaking in ways I haven't broken before. The first time I ever mentioned to my friends that I am not doing okay. And guess what? It's getting worse. Because finally, when I was getting better and I felt a certain way, somebody decided to stomp on me and kick me around. And it broke me in a way that I didn't know I could be broken because I thought I was already down there. I didn't know there was more. I didn't know I could feel so hurt to the point where, like, I am not in control of anything anymore. I'm not in control of my own life, my own emotions, nothing. Everything feels like it's been taken from me. So yeah, I'm angry. Of course I'm angry. I gave everything to everybody. I did everything for everyone. I cared for everybody so deeply. I tried so hard. And I got blamed for everything. And no matter what I did, it wasn't enough for anybody. And even like with my family, I walk downstairs and I gotta hear the things I'm not doing. And I keep trying to explain, like my mom will say to me, oh, it's just me trying to like motivate you. And I don't know how else to explain it to her besides the fact that when I walk down the steps after having a terrible day where I couldn't move, I couldn't stand up to play games with my friends, the one thing that distracts me, and I walk downstairs for the first time after I haven't eaten and I feel terrible and crying all day long, and the first thing I hear is, you're so unhealthy. You need to eat better. You need to stand up more. You need to go outside more. You need more friends to go hang out with. Why don't you have a job yet? It's been a year. It's almost been a year since you've been out of college and you don't have a full-time job yet. Do you understand how that feels for somebody who is trying? You don't think I want a job? You don't think I want money? You don't think I want to be happy? You don't think I want to have these great friends that I can go out with? You don't think I want these things? Of course I do. Of course. That would be amazing to just live my life and feel happiness. But I can't. And it's funny too when I mention these things that I can't. She'll say to me, oh, well, you were able to go to the mall. Well, you were able to go get a tattoo. And I remember saying to her, you mean the two things I was able to do within the past month and a half? Because one I had to do. I ordered something like before all of this happened and I had to go to the mall or they were going to cancel my order. And my tattoo appointment I made too. And sometimes, look, ink therapy sometimes is a thing, okay? But I did two things in a month and a half. And you're going to tell me, oh, but you can do those two things. Do you understand the pressure of a job, the work of a job? I don't care what people say right now. Yeah, I'm behind, okay? I'm behind in life. I understand that. I completely understand that. And I wish I wasn't. I really, really do. And I am trying to get up every day and slowly get a motivation back in some sort of way. But you can't just jump into it. If I jumped into it, I would be fired within the first week. And honestly, that's not something I want to do. I want to be ready to do it. But I need to slowly get there. And walking downstairs and hearing that what I've done isn't enough, it doesn't help. It makes me then want to do less. It's like, okay, well, if I do less, I'm going to hear the same comments. If I do more, I'm going to hear the same comments until I meet your expectations that you're waiting for me to do. It is a terrible feeling, and I don't know how else to explain it, but it is horrible. Horrible to feel, especially when you have that day where it is just a terrible day. You're crying, you feel terrible. The first thing you hear when you walk down the steps, you don't get out enough. Well, you want to see me not get out ever again? I don't think people understand that is pushing people further down. Yes, I understand you're concerned. That's what she says to me. She's concerned. Okay, be concerned. But you're telling me something I hear every single day I walk down the steps. First thing. You're telling me something I know. Trust me. I know, you don't need to remind me. And she's like, oh, well, when do I told her to stop saying it. She's like, okay, well, when do I start saying it again? After 5 years? I'm like, right now? That's not what I need to hear. I need motivation. I need to feel happy. I need to feel content, at least. And you seemingly, it seems like you're putting me down. And I know maybe it's not in your head putting me down, but it's gonna feel like that. It's gonna feel like what I'm doing is not enough, and what I'm doing right now is just trying. And she even said to me today, well, you're not doing anything. I am trying, and that should be something. Trying should be something, and that is something that everybody has to understand, is trying should be something. And when I'm in my room too, by the way, people who are close to me know, I'm always doing stuff. I need to keep my mind busy. Some days I can't. Some days I just lay in bed because I am hurting. But I am doing stuff constantly. I'm working on content, always, new things, editing videos. Editing, I can't even tell you guys how long it takes. People who don't edit, just know it's probably double the amount of work that you already think that it is. It is an insane amount of work. So when I hear that I'm not doing anything, it's like, I am trying to get there. I need to get into a rhythm, and I'm trying to find that rhythm, and you just have to wait. I am just turned 23. I'm not 50 years old living in your house, okay? Let people go on their own journey. Everybody's journey is going to be different. Everybody's pace is going to be different. If all of our paces were the same, we might as well just be the same people at that point. If everything about us is going to be the same, if every expectation that people have for us has to be met, then why don't we all just be the same person? It's not how that works. That's just something I think a lot of people need to get through, is that it's okay to be behind in your journey. It is okay. Yeah, it feels like crap. Trust me, it feels terrible. I know it feels terrible. But you can't hold it against yourself. You didn't do it. You didn't do it to yourself. I didn't do this to me. And I don't care. I know a lot of people say, don't blame other people. Honestly, without these other people doing the things they've done and saying the things they've done, I probably wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here, would I? So yeah, part of it could be you, and I understand you have to go through a healing journey. You have to go through a journey for yourself and help yourself understand yourself, but it doesn't mean that people's words aren't going to hurt you. It doesn't mean that you're not going to feel discouraged when you're comparing yourself to other people. That's not what that means. And it is okay that you're going to do that, because honestly, you're going to do it. Whether you're healed or not, you're going to do it. It's just a matter of how much you let it affect you and how much you let it change your life. Right now, I went through a heartbreak. It's not even just a heartbreak, because it feels worse than a heartbreak. I just feel everything in me, all hope, anything I had, any form of happiness has been sucked out of me. I feel completely lost in my life right now. And not just because I'm not with this person, but because what I felt, what I started to feel, is a feeling in general that I haven't felt in so long. Of I got this. And it got taken from me in such a terrible way. So yeah, I'm struggling right now. But I can fix it. Just, I need a second, please. It's been a month and a half. It hasn't been an entire year. People don't get how long it takes to heal from things. I didn't get a chance to heal from anything in the past 5 years. I didn't get a chance to heal from any of it. And now I'm at this point where it's I have to now heal almost 6 years of my life. Relax, wait. The next question is there a part of yourself that you wish you could have saved? Well, that goes back to what I was talking about before. I wish I could have saved that I don't want to say that stone cold person, because I wasn't stone cold, but the one that just didn't take things personally, didn't let things affect her as much. I still think it's okay. I think it's okay to let things affect you to a certain extent, because you learn from things. I should have probably cared about what people said more then, because I don't think I really listened to what people were saying to me. But at the same time, I do wish I had that piece of me. 100%. Right now, in this moment, what do you want most? I mean, I feel like almost everybody listening to this episode today can relate. I honestly want to just be happy. That's it. Content even, I'll say content. Content with myself, content with my life. I just want to be able to sit down, right, after a day and be like, you're doing all right. That is how I want to feel. That's like content to me. There are these expectations that I have, of course, of marriage and kids and a home and all of these things. And yeah, that sounds great. I would love to be in that place. Like, yeah, I would love to be in a happy, loving relationship. I would love to be married like 4 years from now. I'd love to, all these things. Those are expectations. But what I really want in this moment is I just want to be okay in some form, to the point where I can just be like, you know what, you're all right. Like, you got it. I want to be able to tell myself that, and I definitely try, especially after all of this. I've started doing tarot readings, and it's my first time doing them, but everybody always tells me to because of like my intuition. And every day, whenever I do them, it's always telling me, you gotta heal. Like, stop thinking about things and just heal. Like, it's like yelling at me, for the love of God. Like, I'll ask it a question, it's like, nope, you don't get an answer, heal. Everything right now wants me to be content and happy with myself. Not even like, that's what I'm saying. The thing about being happy with yourself. Yeah, that's amazing to feel happy with yourself. But I think once you feel content with yourself, things will start to move just naturally, and you'll eventually be happier with things. But that feeling of being content with what you've done with your life and who you are, that's what I would want. Who has hurt you the most without realizing it? Well, this goes back to, man, everything is just like a full cycle in this. We're talking about like the same stuff. Definitely my mom. My dad has hurt me, but he knows. Like, I've let him know. Trust me, I've let him know. I think without realizing it, my mom. Absolutely. Over the years, I've tried to explain it to her in every way possible about the things she does, the things she says, and how it affects, like, me and my brother, honestly, both of us, because we've talked about it before. And I remember there was a time where I guess she was going through so much, and a lot got taken out on us. And I remember that time, how much that hurt me. That was a crushing time for me. And I really tried to explain it to her, but that was the one time, like, normally you can't explain it to her, but sometimes it gets across to her once you say it enough and you explain it, like, once you just freak out, basically, not in like a rage way, where you almost like break down, you're like, oh my god, this is what I'm feeling, for the love of God. Then she kind of gets it. And at that point, when she was going through whatever she was going through, I tried to do that, and man, I've never seen my mom look at me and tell me, too bad, kiss it. Like, that's really what she like said to me. I mean, it was like brutal, and I just remember my jaw dropped, and I was like, what? Who just spoke to me? Even my aunt, she was in shock. She told her to leave me alone because she was like, what? Couldn't believe what she said to me. And I remember explaining it to her, and she honestly didn't even really remember saying any of it. She didn't remember that when I went to explain it to her. I remember it made her so upset that she said that, but she didn't remember. This is another thing, guys, with understanding. Yeah, that hurt me. Yeah, that's going to stick with me for probably the rest of my life. Yeah, I feel that pain every day. Yeah, I remember that so well because of how much it hurt. But that change, when you look at somebody and they change, sometimes it could be them coming out, the real them coming out. But I mean, I've known my mom for 23 years now. That wasn't my mom. That was something deeper. That was something else. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about understanding people. People hurt people. I've heard it so many times that hurt people hurt people. 100% correct. I mean, absolutely, we've all done it. So many people have done it to us. But it is hard when you don't realize that you're doing it. You don't realize that you've done it, and someone can explain it to you, and you're like, what? That's not how I said it. That's not what I said. And the other person's sitting there trying to tell you, yes, it is. But you honestly didn't probably feel that type of way that it was coming across. And maybe you did, but you don't remember feeling that intensity that you felt with it. So it's honestly probably one of the worst pains, is when somebody's hurting you without realizing it. That's big. What does it mean for you to allow another person to truly love you? What does it mean? For me, allowing a person to truly love me, so it's not me loving them, it's them loving me. If I'm allowing you to love me, I'm also allowing myself to love you back. I'm allowing a connection. I'm allowing you to let me in, and you to let me in. That's a big thing. I want people to let me in. And I know a lot of people say that they want the other person to let them in, but I'm an honest person. I want to hear the truth. Even if it hurts, I want to hear the truth. And again, that probably has to do with like understanding people too. When you can understand people to a certain level, it's a lot easier to hear what people have to say. But I really just want people to just let me in. To be okay with the fact that you're gonna hurt me. You're gonna say something that's gonna hurt me. But I want to hear it. This goes back to now, like I'm saying, my last relationship where he just ghosted me. You can tell in his last message, it just seemed like he felt like he was going insane and couldn't meet all these expectations that he wanted to. He couldn't have control of his life, and we're long distance, and that was just too much. So he just dipped. And for me, it was like, we didn't get to have that conversation. You just left. I wanted you. I know. Maybe you thought that was going to hurt me so bad to say that you can't do this anymore. Yeah, I get it. But here's the thing. If you find someone that's going to understand you and somebody's going to talk through everything with you and want to hear what you feel, you need to know that. You need to really understand that, because when you have that person who wants to hear these things and then you don't do that for them, you don't let them listen, you don't let them understand, you don't let them have a conversation, they don't get a voice, taking that from somebody who's like that is terrible. It is terrible, because for me, I was going insane. I mean, I was going crazy because I couldn't get an answer, I couldn't get a response, I couldn't get anything. And for somebody who wants to communicate so much, that is so hard for you to do to somebody. Somebody like that. Somebody who really wants to understand. Because it's all I wanted. I wanted a conclusion. I wanted an understanding. I just wanted something. I didn't even get a voice. I got no voice. So that is something, I don't know. You just need to... You just need to have a form of communication. You really, really do. And if I'm allowing you to love me, and I'm allowing myself to love you, you need to learn to communicate. And you need to know, you need to understand that person too. And even if you don't fully understand them, that's okay. Things take time. I mean, relationships take so much time to truly develop. You can feel an instant click and it can be amazing, but you have to get into a certain level with them. And to get there, clearly for me, after all of this happening, he didn't know me. He might have said he did. He didn't know me. If he knew me, he would know. But the thing is, and it goes back to like trying to understand people of, well, maybe for himself, maybe he did understand me, but he just couldn't say it to me, and he ran. Some people run, some people are runners. I'm a talker, some people are runners. But definitely being able to communicate is something that, like, if I'm allowing you to love me and I'm allowing myself to love you, you need that, and you need to understand that I'm that kind of person. Okay, so this is, this is definitely probably the heaviest for me. This is, I've mostly talked about it already, but what part of yourself did you lose in your last relationship? Like I was saying before, I lost a lot. I went through another breakup this year, earlier in May, I think it was. And then this last one with this last guy, the one that I keep talking about, that was in September. That I got ghosted. And in that last one, I mean, I was so hurt from the one back in like May. So hurt, drained. I kept telling him, like, I can't tell if I'm just drained from life and everything or if he was part of it. I didn't know. I couldn't tell, and I didn't want to make rash decisions. It does turn out it was him. He was a big part of it. But that's how I felt after that relationship. I was just, like, drained. It felt like I had no care left in me. It felt like everything was gone from me. And then I met this guy that it was just a spark, and I've never felt butterflies. I've never felt a spark. I've just never felt that before, and the sense of security and home that I felt in 4 months, I didn't feel in that 3.5 years I was with that guy, or the first guy I was with for a 1.5 years. I felt that with this guy within the first week, and we weren't even on like a romantic level yet. So I don't want to say, I definitely lost hope. I lost hope in so much because it was like, when something feels so different like that, you think like, oh, it's gotta be it. Like, this is what it means to feel it. And that's what it felt like to me. That this is what it means to finally feel it. So I think the fact that it wasn't, I definitely lost a sense of hope in that when it comes to relationships, and I already had like no hope in it, and hope in relationships, so it's like, wow, you took more than I thought. I didn't even know there was more to take, but I guess, okay, I guess you took it. I lost the hope in my life, and like I said, it's not the fact that I can't do anything on my own and I was only relying on him. It was something about, it just felt so right, where it felt like my life started to fall into place, and I can't explain it. It wasn't just him, it was him being there did it, but it made everything start falling into place. Like, right before this happened, I was about to get my full-time job. I was just about to do it, and I was telling him all about it, and something about it just felt like slowly life can start falling into place, and the only thing that was in between this was distance. And I was willing to, honestly, if you asked me before, oh, would you do long, I would say no, could never do long distance. But it was a different, something so different. And what a fool I felt like, telling everyone how different, they don't get it, and look what happened. That embarrassment, too, that was a big thing for me. That was really, I've talked about this before in my episode with Daniel. Embarrassment is a huge thing for me. When I feel embarrassed, I shut down, I get angry, I get sad, I want to cry immediately. If I'm embarrassed, I want to cry immediately. And I felt so embarrassed. I felt like a fool. Because normally, I can understand situations, even though my past relationships, bad stuff has happened. I knew all of it. I tried to understand all of it. I tried to understand them about it and make it work and all of these things. But with him, it was so different. And what a fool I felt like when I had to tell my family, who I told this guy all about, and I told them all about him. And what a fool I felt like after they told me, like, basically it wasn't gonna work and it was stupid. What a fool I felt like when I had to tell them, you're right. That was heartbreaking for me, because it was embarrassing. It was. It brought back my basically number one fear. It's not my number one fear, but it is something that affects me the most, that makes me the most upset, that hurts so much. But I lost a lot in that. I did. But the funny thing, okay, here's something interesting though. Yeah, I lost a lot. I got hurt more than I thought I can get hurt, because I've had worse things happen, but for some reason this hurt and affected me so much more. And this is constant, 1.5 months now, and I am just hurting all the time, constantly. But what happened during this, at least the past couple weeks or so, is I've realized quite a few things, which is nice. It's nice to have a positive part of you where you're like, oh, I can acknowledge that these things about me are good, because I lost all of that this past year. I hated myself. I still don't like myself, but I hated myself to the point where if you asked me, name one good thing about you, physically or emotionally, I wouldn't give you one for either, because I hated it that much. But after this, it wasn't even like, I wasn't even mad at myself. Like, I wasn't mad at myself in the sense that, like, I've done something wrong. I always blamed myself in all of my other relationships, but this time I didn't. Because I'm sitting there, I'm like, I literally did nothing. I did nothing. I mean, he would tell me, like, he would be so shocked at the way I was, and he was like, wow, nobody's ever felt about me like this. Nobody's ever had a love for me like this. And, because that's how I am. That is one thing about me, is if you're with me, you're going to get a love, and you're going to get someone who cares about you unlike any human being on the planet, because that is how I love. That's why it's so hard for me to get away and detach myself from a relationship, even though it's bad, because I want to understand you. It's not that I want to sit there and I want to change you. I want to understand you, and you have to be able to mold together and work with each other, and that is just how I want to be. And I care about you in a way that a lot of people don't, so deeply that it's almost like it's insane. And I know that sounds so corny, I know it does, but it is just such a deep feeling I feel about that person. And that's something I've realized. I've always known that about myself. I thought I lost that too in my last relationship, not this one in September, the one in like May and all that. I thought I lost all of that care and everything I had, and to have it back and even stronger, I was like, no, this is how I am, and you should be happy to get that love from me. You should never want to let that go. And that is something that I've realized about myself, is like, I want that. How I love people, I want that love. And that's honestly a nice thing to think about myself, because I don't think about anything nice about myself. I've also been able to realize that I am understanding of people. Like, I can understand people's emotions and situations, and I know how it feels to feel all these certain things. So when people do bad things, it's not that black and white all the time. And I can sit there and I can understand you to a certain extent, but that's a quality that I found in myself. And honestly, finding all of those things, even though it's only a couple, when you have zero, just finding those couple things is so nice, because you did that by yourself. Like, I did that. Like, I realized these things about myself, and I never thought that I would find a positive within myself. Never thought that. But at least I know in a relationship, like, just the way he would talk about me, I know what kind of effect that I have on people. I know that it's hard to find that love. And maybe people just don't mold. Like, you just might not work with somebody. You might not have likes with somebody. You might not have, I don't know, just that connection with people. But I can at least say that I don't want to say it's rare, but kind of, that someone's going to love you like that. The way that I do. And I'll hold that with me. I honestly don't care. And I think even to this day, he knows. 100%. And to give him my last relationship, he would even tell me he couldn't love me the way that I loved him. He would literally say it to me, in the way that I would think about him. He said, I can't feel like that. Like, I don't feel that love that you do. And that's terrible, for one. I know people love differently, but that is terrible to feel, because you want to feel that. I want to feel that love back. Alright, I think we got time for just a couple more questions here. A lot of this was really just to, like, talk and to, like, get things out, but at the same time, as I'm getting things out, people might be able to relate and be like, oh wow, I feel like that too, or I have felt like that too, or that makes sense, maybe that's why I'm feeling like that. That's kind of why I'm doing this episode, is because I have so many emotions and so many things that have happened that I think a lot of people might be able to relate to it. It makes me sad that you relate to it, but sometimes it's nice. Do you believe it is better to love or be loved? That is not an easy question at all, because of course you want to be loved. I mean, it feels so nice, like I said, to, like, feel that love for somebody, but genuinely to feel that love back, I would say that that's better. Because for me, for myself, yes, I love to have that feeling to love somebody the way that I did about the last person, but the love that I felt back, I mean, it brought something in me. It was slowly like I felt like the Grinch, you know, when his heart grows 3 times bigger. That's what I felt like. So that is an amazing feeling. So honestly, I'd have to say that it's better to be loved, but genuinely loved. Genuinely real love. What makes you lose trust in someone? Trust. Man, that is a hard thing, huh? I used to say that I trust people 75%. Like, that's the maximum I can give you because I need the rest for myself. Like, that's my trust. Like, you're not taking that from me. So it was basically, I would give people that amount because I wouldn't want them to take all of it, because I can't imagine what happens when somebody takes all of your trust. What are you left with? So I used to say that I can only give 75%, and I definitely felt myself in my last relationship giving more than that. I'm glad, though, it happened when it happened, because I think I would have given him a lot more. So I'm glad that it happened earlier. But what makes me lose trust in somebody? I mean, there's so many different things that could make me lose trust in somebody. Just being disloyal in any sort of way, friendship, your parents, your relationship, just being disloyal 100%. Of course that's gonna break trust in somebody. I definitely think a big thing is, here's something I want to tell everybody right now. Do not make promises or sell a dream to somebody. I know, maybe you feel like you could. Maybe you feel like you could handle it. Maybe you feel like this is what you want, right? It could be what you want. You could be selling this dream because it's what you feel at the moment and it's what you want. But don't do it so quick. Don't do it like that, because you are going to break somebody when they finally start to believe you and then you can't hold up to it. Let me tell you that. That is heartbreaking. That is so heartbreaking when you feel like, even if it's just a small thing, if somebody's saying to you, like, I'm not gonna leave you, I'm not these other people, I'm not gonna leave you. Yeah, maybe you felt like you weren't gonna leave them. And of course you want to tell them that you're not gonna leave them, but don't put it in their head where it's like, no, there's no way. There's no chance. I don't think you understand that it's never gonna happen. It's weird because I know people can mean it. I understand that, like, I mean it every time. Of course I mean it every time, and I don't leave. But the thing is the way that you do it. Or don't say something where your actions can't meet up, right? If your actions can't meet with your words, don't say, I know maybe you want it. I know maybe that's how you want to feel and that's what you really want them to know. But if you know deep down that you can't do that, maybe not right now, maybe later you can do it, but right now you can't, yeah, you can give them reassurance, but don't sell a dream that you can't give right now. Please don't. That is a big thing that makes me lose trust in people 100%, is because I can't rely on you, can I? And I know I keep relating back to my last relationship, but it's the most raw thing right now, the thing that makes me feel the most. But that's what happened. It was like, he would say to me, and it sounded so genuine, and guess what? As crazy as it sounds, I think maybe he meant it. He would say to me, like, I would say, what if you leave? And he'd go, I don't think you understand. Like, you were it for me. Like, he had no intention of dating until he met me. He had no intention of marriage and anything until he met me. And I genuinely feel like maybe he meant it, which sounds crazy, I know. But that's the thing, when you can't hold up to what you're saying, it's just better to not say it like that. Not right now. Maybe later down the line, but not right now. And I started to believe that, which is why I became more crushed by that. So I think a lot of it is you have to really understand your situations. You have to understand yourself at the moment and the other side and the person you're with, or it could be friendship related too, of course. But I just think you can't make those promises or those statements the way that you're making them if you don't think you can hold up to them. Even if you think you can hold up to them, because I think that was his problem too, is he thought he could do all these things, and then when he couldn't, it was like shutdown mode, runaway mode, because he couldn't do these things. You're telling yourself that you have to look at things, you have to understand the situation. You're in a situation and have to try to tell him all the time, you're not going to be able to control things properly. You're not going to get what you want. You're not going to get all these things that you wish you could do and all of these things. It's not how it works. So don't try to put that in my head too, because you're trying to put it in your own. Ooh, this is another good question. Is right person, wrong time a thing? All right, here's what I think about this one. This has been a new thought for me, okay? I go back and forth a lot with this question. Previously, if you said is right person, wrong time a thing, I would say no. Not a thing. If it's a right person, it would be the right time. Your right person would be the right time. And sometimes I still believe that. I really don't know. So it's such a hard question to ask, because I don't want to say that every time it feels like the right person, it was the wrong time. That's not true. But I do think that sometimes you meet the right person. And I know people say, if you meet the right person, it will be the right time because you'll grow together. And you know what? That's what I would do. Yeah. That's how I would be. But here's the thing. People are different. People are so different, and that's something that people don't understand, is how different people are. Everybody was raised so differently. Everybody has gone through so many different things throughout their teen years, their kid years, their adult. I mean, everything is just so different. So saying right person, wrong time, I do think it's possible. Yeah, I think it's possible to find the right person at the wrong time, because if stuff isn't healed, yeah, you can heal with somebody. Absolutely. But sometimes you do have to just wait, because if they are the right person, they'll come back. If they never come back and you never reconnect in that natural sort of way, they weren't the right person. So that's kind of what I think about it. I think that it's possible to have the right person at the wrong time, because it could be the wrong time for you. It could be the wrong time for them. It could be the wrong time for just you two. And it's so hard. It's so crazy that I'm saying that, because I never would have expected myself to say that, because I always said no. If it's the right person, it's the right time. And you'll grow together, because that's how I think it should be. But just because that's how I think it should be doesn't mean that's how it always is. I've heard so many cases. I mean, how many relationships have broken up and gotten back together and now they're married? Like, it happens. It's even like you get married and you get divorced. That wasn't the right person, but you were with them. Like, it's just so it just depends on every situation, every person, because God, everyone is so different. So different for you to just understand everything. And I know everyone's going to have their opinions. I know there's people that are going to disagree with a lot of things I say in this video, and that's totally okay. That's alright. I don't mind that you disagree with me, because half of the time I disagree with myself. Old me would disagree with half the things I'm saying right now. But I think with time and really looking at people and things, just people on the internet that I've become friends with, my family, relationships, friendships, everyone is so different. And I think the whole message of this podcast is really to tell you guys that, like, you don't have to understand everybody. There are a lot of people who say they're understanding and they're not. And look, that is okay. That is so okay. Like, yeah, it's nice to be able to understand people, but sometimes you don't, and that's fine. That's so fine that you don't understand people. It doesn't mean you're stupid. It doesn't mean anything. It just means that you can't fully get in their mindset, and that's normal. Like, that's okay that you can't get in their mindset, because you're not them. That's okay. And that's something I wish people knew too when I'm talking to people about my problems, and I'll talk to people about this last relationship. Everyone's like, no, it's so black and white. He could have just messaged you. Like, no shit. I know he could have messaged me. Trust me, I know, because that's what I would have done. Would have had a full ass conversation and taken him back because I'm an idiot. Yeah, okay? I know. I understand that. But the thing is you weren't me, right? You didn't go through my childhood. You didn't go through my past relationships. You didn't go through his life. Our lives, when we used to talk, they're so different. So different. And that's fine. That's why he deals with things differently. And obviously, I don't know the full truth. I don't know everything. I'm just making an understanding of something because I have no other choice but to make up my own conclusion and make up my own understanding, or else I'm going to drive myself insane. But God, everyone is so different in every sort of way. So just try to listen to what people are saying, okay? And sometimes when people are talking to you, just know they don't always want to hear, like, oh yeah, I'm on your side. They just want someone to talk to. They just want to be able to let it out. You don't need to sit there and say, I totally understand. I really value those people who say, you know, I don't fully understand what you're going through, but I can say this at least. I value that so much. Because that is so much more genuine than someone saying, yeah, I get you. No, the fuck you don't. Like, you don't. You can get, some people can get you, obviously, but you're not always gonna get it. So those people who constantly say, I get you, it's just so that they can say something like, back to you. But those people who say, like, I can't fully understand what you're going through, but, like, I see what you mean. That I value so much, and I absolutely love that when I'm talking to people. So, everybody, on that note, I know it was probably an intense talk, and I have no problem if anyone wants to message me on Twitter, because I know a lot of you guys listening to this are on Twitter. But now you guys know a bit more about me and about my life, even though a lot of this is like current situations, and I know I talked about my last relationship quite a lot, but I'm trying to be a lot more open about the feelings I felt in that, because I think a lot of people can relate to it, and since it's so fresh for me, it's like people might understand it a bit more. But I really just wanted to have one episode where I can just talk to you guys, because a lot of the times I miss out on so much I want to say in the episodes because I'm really focusing on what everybody else has to say. So I thought that this would be a good idea. But again, thank you so much to everybody who has listened. Guys, I appreciate it so much, to all of you who click on these episodes, especially those that click on it like every week. That is absolutely amazing. And I just appreciate you all so much for listening and being here and hearing everybody's stories. It has been a lot more fun than I expected. I really didn't expect to connect with people so much like this. And the ones on this season are all of like my best friends, like Eld, Pangu, Daniel, Zombie, Mackenzie. Those are literally like my best friends right now. So it was really nice to have that deep conversation with them, and really like show you their side and their stories of how they feel about a lot of things. I think it's nice to bring in different perspectives, which is why I do this podcast. But this is the ending of season 1 of The Cabinet. I will be back with season 2, honestly, in about, I would say, December, maybe I think we're going to start off the new year in January with it. I think that would be the better idea. I'm not going to say anything for sure, but let's say I might be doing 2 episodes a week. So if you want 2 episodes a week, we're going to have to wait until January so I can pre-record everything. But thank you all for listening, and thank you for a great season, and all of my guests, if any of you guys are listening, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you all so much and for listening. And on that note, I will catch you guys in a couple months. The whole Oh, hey.
What?
Look up.
What happened? Look up. Whoa.
Would you look at that?
Bit I saw.
That's sick. All that happened when I threw it in was a bunch of green faces exploded out the cauldron and shot into the sky.